If you told me you don't like World War II zombies, I would understand. A part of me despises this game as well. But another part of me loves this game for being rather epic and also underappreciated. I know I say this a lot when making these videos, but honestly it's true. People really overreact with their hatred towards some of these zombies experiences. I mean, you get to live through an outbreak of zombies during World War II with an established, interesting story in a video game. If that isn't cool, I don't know what is. I'm just going to say it. Some of these maps, I'd argue, could rival some of the best Treyarch maps, except for one reason, and this is where the other half that dislikes this game comes from. The game feels rough and at times unfinished. I did get very close to beating the Final Reich in another video, but I never did, so in this video, for my first time, I beat the Final Reich, the Darkest Shore, the Shadowed Throne, and the Frozen Dawn. And at the end, I will do a bonus challenge on Groesten House, one of the smallest maps in zombies history. After finishing all of this, I can confidently say that World War II Zombies is the most misunderstood version of zombies. In this fictional world, during World War II, Hitler reached out to a Dr. Peter Straub. His orders were to create a super soldier who was not afraid of death. Klaus Fischer, conveniently a man who wanted to be accepted and help the Nazi party, let Straub know of an immense discovery. In Klaus's hometown village of Meddelberg, an ancient artifact was found, that being of Frederick Barbarossa's hilt, a Holy Roman Emperor in the 1100s. It was said the sword was magical and forged in ancient Thor, and could bring Barbarossa back to life. However, it was not known that evil could be expelled from the ancient magic. When Barbarossa died, the sword was destroyed into 3 parts and displaced into 3 different areas. The locals in Middelburg came across the hilt, which we are dealing with now, but it was unable to be lifted from its location because of a mysterious magnetic force. Now with the knowledge of the hilt, Straub does experimentation to draw power out of the hilt, and as a consequence, a cord snaps, hitting 2 men and killing them. They then, however, begin to rebel against physical death, and so they get up and attack Straub, before being killed by security. This was the moment Straub knew how to build his army of super soldiers who were not afraid of death. It is also at this time Klaus, the man who informed the Nazi party of the ancient site, started having second thoughts about his allegiance. He saw what Straub was doing and was horrified, and so he sent letters to his sister in America, Marie Fischer, who became a member of the Monuments, Fine Arts and Archives program, which worked with the military forces to safeguard historic and cultural monuments from war damage. A lot of this story is entwined with real life events, but in this fictional world, she did this in an attempt to save her brother and prevent the Nazis from abusing this evil they had acquired. To help her on this mission, she assembled a group of MFAA operatives, including Scottish Groesten Hind, French Olivier Durant, and United States Jefferson Potts. On their way to Middelburg, however, they are seized by a monster made of body parts from the deceased, an invention by Dr. Straub. But for story's sake, we didn't get taken out, and somehow we're in Middelburg, so I guess we just got very lucky by that. So I know I do this in nearly every video now, but I have gotten to round 100 on the Final Reich before, and I enjoyed it, but it's not my favorite map ever. In fact, I think 2 other maps on this game are better, which may come as a shock considering most people like this map and think it's the best, but I'd say to that, most people just haven't played the other maps. I do still stand by my belief that this map has one of the coolest atmospheres though, but let's get into the Easter eggs. So first of all, of course, we can't forget to turn the valves, clear the sewers, and open the secret bunker where Straub has done his experiments. We can then turn on the power, which I believe is being charged by Barbarossa's hilt, and so inside of the perk machines is that energy which allows us to alter ourselves to become more powerful, so I choose to get Speed Cola first. Now we can enter Barbarossa's chamber, activate the transfer device, and charge it. Firstly, I do hit the mystery box and I got the SDK sniper rifle, which helps me get the scattered parts of the Tesla gun, which Klaus apparently hid for us in an attempt to sabotage Straub, which is pretty cool. So after charging the transfer device, I can then collect the Tesla gun barrel, charge the transfer device some more, and then collect the Tesla gun core. At this stage, a Brenner zombie spawns in. These guys are pretty cool, but luckily for me, this sniper is also pretty damn strong. I can now build and pick up the Tesla gun, so thank you Klaus for that. I now need to change the fuse boxes to their proper frequency by matching the colors to the numbered panel. This is very easy, and at the end of it we can see a Zeppelin just chilling, flying over. There are a lot of starting pistols on this game, and a lot of them are really cool. In this game, I got the bacon and eggs when pack-a-punched, which are somewhat similar to the Mustang and Sally's, except probably better. I purchased double tap, and now I need to protect these lightning rods with the bacon and eggs and Tesla gun. It's not too hard, but I did have to abuse my specialist free pre-fire, which gives me infinite ammo for a period of time. These specialists and their mods, super underrated on this game, and rarely I found I used anything similar on any of the different maps, so it created more variety when playing this game. I did at this stage stupidly drop the bacon and eggs for the FG42 because I knew I was about to shoot at a Zeppelin and didn't realize the bacon and eggs are OP from that range, so that was a mistake by me, but the FG42 is pretty good. I activate the left hand of God, hack the FG42 and deal with the Zeppelin by shooting the lights that appear on it whilst being careful not to get zapped. When enough damage has been done to a light, a part of the Zeppelin will fall off, and now I just need to charge it, which gives me an Überschall. I then have to carry this down to the Hilt's chamber, but unfortunately because I'm a dumbass, I couldn't figure out how to drop it, and so I ended up getting my first down. But once in a safe position, I pick it back up and put it into the left hand of God. I need to do this 3 times, and on the 3rd time, I actually got baited by the Überschall, which was pretty funny. I do eventually complete them all and then pick up this Brenner head, which is left whenever you eliminate one of these guys. I need to shine this head on 4 different paintings, giving me a number and also an image of an eagle at a different angle. With this knowledge, I can activate the voice of God by putting in the correct number that corresponded to the angle the eagle was pointing. I can now shoot the hilt with the Tesla gun, which breaks the magnetic force and allows us to pick up the hilt, which is pretty awesome. But unfortunately for us, we aren't going to complete the mission and escape that easy. I suppose we are missing Klaus as well. But anyway, we run into the Panzer Mortar again. This boss is pretty damn cool, but unfortunately Klaus has been attached to its body, I guess as punishment for attempting to sabotage Straub. So this situation is pretty messed up. The boss fight is very similar to the Zeppelin step earlier, except this time we have to avoid being hit by this big boss. And also when we do get the Überschall, we have to knock the boss down and then quickly attach it to him. To charge the Überschall can be quite awkward in this boss fight, as you can see in this example. I got overwhelmed and ended up going down. Luckily, I did manage to charge the Überschall before I went down, and so all I had to do was knock him down and put it on, though it was proving to be very awkward. But I eventually attached the Überschall and beat this pretty fun and easy Easter egg. With the batteries attached to the Panzer Mortar, it becomes attracted to the Zeppelin, destroying itself and the Zeppelin. As a result, we get an absolutely epic shot of the Zeppelin exploding. The cutscenes on this game are some of the most cinematic in all of Call of Duty. So there are 2 endings to this map. The first one where, yes, Klaus dies with the Panzer Mortar. The alternative ending consists of Klaus being revived by the Hilt of Barbarossa, from which Klaus acts strange, telling us to prevent the resurrection of Barbarossa, and then ultimately ending his own life. To get this ending, you must do the hardcore Easter egg, which I did not do. Honestly, I didn't even know about it until I'd finished all of these maps. But hey, maybe one day I'll do it, as well as finishing all of the Tortured Path. I did think about doing them both, but I found them quite tedious and it was hurting my brain. Who knows though, I might enjoy them another time. But before that, we must continue on to the next stage of our journey. The Darkest Shore. The crew track down Dr. Straub, who they believe to be located on the Heligoland Islands, where he is still advancing his army of super soldiers, no matter how horrific they may be. Straub is able to do this because another part of Barbarossa's sword is located on the island, specifically in the ancient temple of Nerthus. Nerthus is an ancient Germanic goddess of peace and prosperity, though when slaves would worship her as part of a rite, they would immediately be drowned afterward. So not the most peaceful and prosperous god, I would say, but hey. So upon coming to the Darkest Shore, we must stop Straub from advancing his army and get the next piece of the sword. This map has a really cool and unique beginning. The zombies actually spawn in the water and start creepily coming out of it, and so to deal with them, we are given a turret to wipe them out, which is pretty fun. Now for these last 4 maps, I've never played them before, but I'd heard things about the Darkest Shore. I can't remember if they were positive or negative, but I think they had something to do with the difficulty of this map, because this map is very difficult. It took maybe the most amount of time out of any Easter egg I've ever done for me to complete. But even with all of this said, I probably had the most fun playing this map, as I thought this Easter egg was very solid and honestly one of my favorites I've done. It just flowed well, was enjoyable, and not to mention the environment is really cool, especially when elevated by its story. So firstly, I turn on the power and use the cart to get the green parts for the Pack-a-Punch, but also open the secret passage that will eventually lead to Nerthus Temple. First though, I grab this head and build the saw. The saw is honestly quite brutal, which goes with this map's grotesque aesthetic. I do need to use this saw to get a spine from a zombie that is charged, from which I can assemble the Ripsaw. It is important to note that I picked up the SVT-40 at this stage, as it will be our main weapon later on, because it's pretty insane upgraded. With the Ripsaw, I have to get this corpse's head, and now before I do the next step, I get the bacon and eggs, because things are about to get pretty wild. So with the corpse's head, I am able to put it onto this body, charge this device, and it brings this combination to life, which in all honesty is quite messed up, and things get a lot more dire for this guy very soon. But first we have to survive a lockdown with fire coming out of the floor. To survive, we have to switch off 3 of these valves when they have no fire underneath. It is a pretty easy step, and I try not to eliminate too many zombies so I don't go through the rounds too fast. And when done, we can interact with this invention of our own, which leads to one of the most brutal things I've seen in a zombies game. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm not sure if YouTube will even allow me to show this. I guess it was the only way to open this really important area though, from which a Brenner zombie is guarding, so we have to take him out obviously, which is pretty easy with the bacon and eggs. I then go on the hunt to get a charged spine of a pest zombie. I can then place this head we got from next to the ancient door and also call up a pest zombie from below using the spine that we just got. Because I played this map so much, I started doing multiple steps at once to make this whole process faster. So I got into a turret and started shooting down these planes. I did eventually move to a different turret to finish this off and also destroy this rock. Weirdly, I always found this step really fun. So now back onto the pest zombie that we brought up. I have to rebound the Ripsaw off these panels and hit it, which will charge it and then move on to the next destination. Doing this 5 times will complete it, and each time gets harder and harder. I eventually do finish it, and now I can move on to the next charged spine, which I got of a normal zombie, and so I don't need to escort him, and we will see him in a little. But while I wait, I find these red rocks around the map and shoot them, and this time I get the first Son of Nertha stone, which will allow me to enter her temple once we have 3 of them. I also got the second one from when I shot that rock. It came out of it and landed on the beach. For the third one, you can see the zombie I called up earlier with that spine is just now coming out of the water, bringing the last stone. This whole process I think is pretty damn cool. But before I do anything of Nuthus, I call upon this head here to bring up this grotesque artillery loader. I have to guide him to the big turret, which will allow me to shoot down enemy ships later. I now do place the last Son of Nerthus into the ancient wall, and you can see these moisturers praying to Nerthus. Pretty cool little touch, I thought. These guys are very strong and give a lot of character to this map. So I used my upgraded SPD with free fire and absolutely destroyed them, because this gun is insane, especially with free fire and the mods you can place on it. I enter the room, and because I did the pest spine already, the door shuts behind me and a ritual occurs. But because I have free fire already, I take out these buff pests really easy and grab my first head part. I use the Ripsaw to get a radio part from a fallen soldier and repair it here. Very luckily at round 16, I get the Jack-in-the-Box, which is the monkey bombs on this game, and extremely helpful for one of these steps. Now that the radio is set, enemy ships come in and start bombing the island to try and eliminate us. So we use the artillery to destroy it. Another pretty cool step on this map. It's time now to get a brute spine, which brings a friendly brute, just like the friendly pest and friendly zombie that was brought up earlier. And I have to take him to certain perks around the map in a certain order. But during this time, the mist rolled in and 2 moisturers spawned. And so I have to get one of their spines, because this is the hardest step in probably the entire Easter egg except for the boss fight, because they are so strong like I said, and we have to get a charged spine off them. So I abandon the brute because these guys don't spawn in very often, and I do end up getting one of these spines, which was awesome. I make sure that the brute gets eliminated so that I can bring up the friendly moisture, from which the moisture will hide from me, and I have to go around the map and shoot him 3 different times from 3 different hiding spots before the other zombies get to him and eliminate him. Now I can enter the Nerthus temple again, and a moisture will be there starting a ritual, but I take him out so fast it doesn't even happen, and I get my next head. Now I have to do the brute spine, which is very easy, as I just have to guide him to get double tap, increase melee, stamina, and then quick revive. From which he goes into Nerthus temple, and again a ritual occurs, and we just have to eliminate him and grab the head. Speaking of heads, I have to grab this other head, and now the final ritual occurs, from which at the end Barbarossa's pummel is in the hand of Nerthus, and we can pick it up and actually throw the pummel. And if you do it at this radio here, we can interact with it, and it puts me into the boss fight. So the first part of the boss fight is you have to take out 4 different Voiceless, all with different abilities. This boss fight is very hard, and it's only because this gun with the combination of free fire and its mods that make it possible. For me anyway. Once done, the mist will disappear here in this first stage, and I make sure to charge my free fire, and I can move on to the next spot. I make sure to throw the pummel straight away at the Brenner, as this situation can be difficult, but because the pummel stuns him, I was chilling and popped free fire. This area, even with the fire, is a little easier, and so I was able to train the enemies in this area and slowly take the bosses out. After some time of completion, I can then enter this space and grab the full meter power up and armor. I do eventually get to the beach again, where I take out 4 more Voicelers, which seemed weaker randomly this time, but I was definitely thankful as I completed the darker shore and a very intense, fun, but difficult map. With the pommel obtained and Nerthus and her rituals completed, we order an airstrike on the islands without really planning an escape for ourselves for some reason, which is kind of dumb. And so we end up jumping from a cliff onto one of Straub's Zeppelins as he and the other Germans escape and head to Berlin. The Shadowed Throne. We arrive to a war-torn Berlin and decide that maybe we should get off the Zeppelin before being discovered by Straub. This moment is kind of dumb, as I don't understand how we could possibly survive this, but I guess we are 4 characters fighting a large undead army, so maybe it's not the time to be skeptical. I'm not going to lie, I don't really like this map that much. It's definitely not bad, just nowhere near the quality of the other maps on this game. And that's probably the result of the radio steps and Morse code steps, which I literally had to use Premiere Pro so I could slow down the audio to interpret the code. So yeah, I wouldn't say these are the most fun steps. To start with, I grab this painting, note this number, correlate the code on the radio with the pin on the map to give me another number, and now I can tune the radio with both of the numbers I just acquired. The coolest thing about this map are the melee weapons, and we can actually upgrade them. So firstly, with the Morse code we were given after doing the radio step, I interpret the code onto this map here, and when done successfully, I get given a golden bowl. So yeah, riveting start so far. I shoot this box here which sets off flares, causing the Zeppelins to shoot and mutate the zombies. I make sure when I get a Sizzler zombie to take him out on the armor box, which gives me an important part, and attaches his head from which I can pick up and place on the bowl I picked up earlier. I grab the Wonderbus battery and shoot this film down and attach the painting and film to this projector. With the Wonderbus battery, I can enter this room and craft the Wonderbus, the wonder weapon on this map. I will say it's pretty bad. It does feel like some of the wonder weapons in this game are catered more for the Easter egg than to actually play casually, which I'm not a fan of. With the Wonderbus, I can shoot this register to get another number, which again, more numbers, more fun, I think is the direction they were taking this. With the Wonderbus, I activate the projector, and now I have to charge certain clowns around the map, and yes, you guessed it, I have to remember some more numbers. I have to remember how many zombies it took to charge each clown, and with those 4 numbers, I can then open a safe, which I struggled to open a lot when I tried this. I luckily did get it open this game though, and as a reward got the upgraded knife. And so I put it into the wall here. I do also have to charge these drop pods by shooting it with the Wonderbus. There are 3 of them, and this is very easy. Where I placed the bowl and the fizzler head earlier, a bunny next to them becomes a soul box. Yes, this map is very weird. But once completed, I get the upgraded axe and again place it in its groove. I do pack a punch a different pistol in this game, and it's really solid. Probably the best gun in the game when upgraded. Now with the number I got from the register earlier, I can call this smuggler through the radio. He wants a certain weapon off me, and I can tell which weapon he wants by the bullets on this table. Here I could see SMG bullets, so I give him the MP40 and it worked. So now I just had to wait 2 rounds and then give him some points. And so once this is all done, I can get the upgraded knife and knock on the door 3 times, which will open it, and I will come face to face with a brute. This scenario is a great example of how good this pistol is. As a reward for doing all of this, I get the upgraded baseball bat. I place the final upgraded melee, and now I need to kill 30 normal zombies, 10 Sizzler zombies, and 10 pest zombies, unlocking a hidden courtyard. In the courtyard is another drop, which I have to charge, but once completed, I get put into a lockdown and I cannot leave, so I leave 1 pest zombie. Because I have to complete a puzzle, and there was no websites to guide me, they've all been taken down, and there was no good YouTube videos explaining it, so I just had to go and try my best, I guess. And you know, it actually was kind of fun and pretty easy doing trial and error. With this done, I get 4 different golden birds bird statues, and I have to place them around the sculpture of Barbarossa in certain positions and angles. Completing the step gives us the blade of Barbarossa, which is the final part that we needed of the sword. So very cool stuff. I can now use the Wonderbus to charge this open drop pod, taking us into a Zeppelin. This was my first time getting past the locked safe, so I didn't really understand this next part where I had to open up doors of the Zeppelin. And so this took ages, but eventually I opened the last part and all the zombies despawned, and now it's time to finally face Straub. But because we messed with the power when opening the doors, he gets attacked and eliminated. So we have all the parts of the sword and Straub is gone. Our mission is basically done except for the issue that there are zombies everywhere. And we also can't celebrate too fast because we first have to face one of Straub's new inventions to even get off the Zeppelin. This boss fight, I'm not going to lie, was pretty weird. You just have to shoot him when he begins to glow before he sprints. And then eventually in his last stage, you have to use the Wonderbus to take him out when he is on the ground. This took me about 15 minutes to complete, but it wasn't hard at all. It just takes ages. And when it was done, I didn't even get to see him die. But I knew it had finished when the drop pod was open again and I could escape. I will say this again, not my favorite map in World War II Zombies. But can we appreciate the visuals again for a second? The cutscenes in this game look incredible. So we do find ourselves stranded after eliminating the boss and collecting the last sword piece. Just as we all run out of ammo and our doom appeared to be coming fast, we are saved by Major Rito. The Tortured Path. Straub's death leads to the army of super soldiers being unleashed with no leadership but their own animalistic soulless desires, causing havoc upon Europe for both sides. In America, the Bureau of Archaic Technologies is formed to combat these events. They hire new soldiers with the single goal of stopping the undead army. It is then brought to our attention that the sword is the key to destroying the undead army, and so we are currently trying to find a way to reforge it. We do eventually find some runes in Antarctica and forge the sword. But we are unaware of the effect this has caused. As you can see, the magical energy can be seen under the ice. The Frozen Dawn. This magical energy that caused the undead army, the same energy we just saw under the ice, zaps our plane down. The characters then awake in the lost city of Thule, where the sword was first forged with its magic. Now this is my favorite map in World War II Zombies, and I'd never even heard of it before. This map, with a few changes, I think could rival some of the best Treyarch maps. Granted, I've never tried high rounds on this map, though I've seen the world record is round 436, so I'd assume it's pretty fun. The map does remind me a lot of Ancient Evil, a map I really like, and I'd assume this is where Ancient Evil actually got its inspiration from, because it's very similar. To start with, I pick up this Uberschnell and eliminate some zombies around the soul box to enter Thule. I do make sure to bring the Uberschnell and also pick up a couple stones and a gear on the way before filling up the first blood pool. I promise the start of this is chaotic, but it gets really good pretty fast. I then make my way and activate the Ancient Forge, making sure to use my front line, which enhances my melee damage and gives me some armor. Once completed, I get another stone, a book, and a gear. Again, I promise this map isn't as complex as it may seem. On my way back, I get my third gear and also the Thulian Scythe, making sure to pick up this Ravenstone on the way. I then complete my second blood pool and place the Raven block in my final and third blood pool, whilst also interacting with this golden Raven, which spawns tons of Ravens around the map. Now finally, I can add the Uberschnell to this cup and also the 4 stones in these spots here, killing 4 zombies in a certain order based off the symbols I was given by the stones, which spawns in the hammer. As you can tell already, this map has some really cool wonder weapons. I lay down so the hammer doesn't flee from me and interact with it, and I'll deal with it some more later. I get my second book and charge the Uberschnell, which spawns in some lightning puzzles, and now I just need to make sure all of them face inwards. Luckily, there are some really good YouTube videos to help this step. Now I just need to bring the hammer back to its location and it will be charged. With those 2 books, I did open the cipher room, place the gears in this machinery, kill a corpse eater and steal his spine. I have to look at the solar system on the wall and then match it to the actual solar system model. So when the planet's in the same location, I have to activate it. And as a result, I get the broken flail. But first I have to go back to the hammer and hit this charge spot here. And when doing this, I only have a short time whilst it's charged, from which I hit this location here, then move on to the second blood pool. And now I hit a zombie in this location and the electricity is moved above the door. Now I need the boss zombie zombie with the shield to get zapped, eliminate him with the hammer, thus giving us the power again, and then hit this spot, causing a puzzle to appear. And then the puzzle is super easy, luckily. You just have to shoot the same blocks every single time. It's the same thing every time. Now, to finally finish off the hammer, I line myself up with the armor and walk off the edge towards what I believe to be a volcano. We then get taken into an area very similar to in Ancient Evil, where we have to eliminate a few zombies with its special move. And then we have our first melee upgrade. We can take it to the altar and move on to the next one. I pick up the shield, get increased melee damage for obvious reasons, and place the scythe upon the forge, charging it with the souls of the zombies. I get a bomber zombie to explode in this location, removing the metal blocking the radio parts, which I need for later, but for the meanwhile, I'll shoot some of these ravens around the map, which spawns in these corpse eaters that are actually charged, from which I have to eliminate them over the shining blood pool, giving us a symbol. When I've done every single blood pool with a charged corpse eater, I can then place the radio down here and kill a zombie whenever I get the same pattern that was in the blood. I know this might sound confusing, but trust me, it gets better. After I do all 3 patterns, I down myself, which spawns me into this area again. But this time I have to block shocks from the air with my shield, and once done, it is now upgraded and I place it in the shield altar. Moving on, I use the broken flail to teleport me to the soul boxes, from which I have to kill 3 zombies and then find a constellation around the map. Doing this 3 times will enter me into the upgrade, where I have to teleport through 2 walls of fire, which I went down a few times doing this because I'm an idiot. And if you do muck up the timing at all, it's an insta down. With that out of the way though, the broken flail is done. And because I charged the scythe earlier, we can now pick it back up, teleport again to the upgrade phase, where I just have to eliminate 3 brutes. I do also make sure to pack my machine pistol here, just in case for the boss fight. And now I've assembled all of the upgraded wonder weapons, and shortly I'll explain how these came to be. But first, we have to teleport and beat the God King. The only reason we have to verse the God King is because a member from the BAT who was sent to retrieve the sword from when we crash landed the planes. If you remember, the plane was struck by lightning, so someone had to come and find the sword, and when they did, they became delusional by the sword's power, and as a result awakened the God King. I had a blast doing this boss fight because instead of doing 3 stages, you can straight up just run at the God King with the upgraded scythe and frontline and do immense damage. But it is super risky because he is also very strong. So it's actually a really cool battle. In this game, I did get lucky and I do enough damage to down us. I know that sounds stupid, but this is what we want, as it triggers a cutscene from which Klaus appears, and this is where the story takes a crazy turn. Because we are revived and turned into Raven Lords by Klaus, who has become some kind of raven god, I suppose. Let me explain this. The Raven Brotherhood exists to keep the cycle of life and death balanced. So with this knowledge, it makes sense that the Raven Brotherhood want to abolish zombies from this world to keep that balance of life and death. Honestly, I do laugh at this part of the story. It is a little goofy, but hey, I don't mind a battle between good and evil conveyed through gods and demons. It is also important to note that General Rito was in the Order of the Ravens the entire time, but only we are made into Raven Lords by Klaus. And with our new strengths being Raven Lords, we can finally eliminate the God King. A very cool looking boss, I might add. It's also very important to note that apparently the God King was behind Straub and Barbarossa this whole time. And so now it is for us as Raven Lords with our Raven Lord weapons to end the zombie outbreak. And yes, these are the weapons that the Raven Lords wield. I ended up having a lot of fun playing this game, although at times the tedious Easter eggs were daunting and the potentially glitched boss fight was distressing, but apart from that, I thought the game was very solid. Evidently, a lot of work was put into this game, though maybe it was too much as some of the maps were released very buggy and were never fixed. So yeah, I'm glad I experienced the entirety of World War II Zombies. It definitely was an adventure to say the least. But wait, just a second, I did do a pretty wild challenge on an absolutely tiny map. Let me know in the comments if this is the smallest map in Zombies history. I did some research, but it seems Nacht der Anton may be smaller. If that is the case, it must be pretty close because this map is tiny. The challenge I decided to do was get to round 50 and take out the Brenner boss, who only ever spawns in at round 50. At first, I thought this might take a while, but I soon figured out there are some really cool ways to advance yourself on this map. One of those ways is to shoot every lamp on the map, which will open the mystery box room. At the this point, I just decide to get some points because I need 10,000 to do the next cool Easter egg. But first, I need the Jack-in-the-Box. Luckily, it's pretty much guaranteed in your first 5 hits of the mystery box. So I throw it onto this panel, and once it explodes, I can now go to this piano and interact with it, leading me to lose 10,000 points, but every single time I hit the mystery box, I get a pack-a-punched weapon. So definitely a good trade. In the box, there are some almost secret weapons. To be fair, I don't know many of the weapons in this game, but some of these weapons are really insane and you would never expect it, is what I'm trying to say. Especially the pack-a-punch sniper, the subsonic scream. It's one of the weirdest weapons I've ever seen in Call of Duty, but when you shoot it on the ground, it leaves a yellow light, and when it turns red, it eliminates all the zombies in the area. It has a limit, I'm not sure how many, but it seems to kill like upwards of 5 zombies with one shot. There is also a perk machine on this map that acts like the Wonder Fizz, but honestly, with this sniper, I easily got to round 43, but then it started getting pretty hard, and so I got the other insane weapon on this map, and that is the crossbow, which, to be fair, isn't great on this map because it's so small, but if you use it with free fire, it becomes absolutely insane. It's like using alchemical antithesis with an OP Black Ops 3 wonder weapon. Even with all of this OP stuff, I still went down, and because it's random perks, I nearly failed the entire challenge. However, I did make it to round 50, I saw the Brenner, I threw the Jack-in-the-Box, but these insane weapons aren't very good when taking the Brenner out, so I decided to spear him with the crossbow, and this whole scenario was super awkward and intense, but eventually I think I killed him through the wall because of the subsonic scream does do damage through walls, on this map anyway, or maybe he just disappeared, I'm not too sure, but either way, I got to round 50, which I was definitely happy about on such a difficult map. I personally love when there are these small survival maps that you can have a lot of fun on, where it just adds a lot of variety. It's just like having the Giant and Shadows of Evil, though let's be real, the Giant is absolutely insane. And so hopefully in the next game we'll have a detailed map and then just a survival map, but for now I'm genuinely happy playing all of these hidden gems that have been so brutally disregarded at times. For me, it's like getting a new zombies game every week. So I hope you guys did enjoy the video. The next one will be round 100 on every World at War map.